Hi, good to be back with you. So I have a retreat coming up soon. I'll put a link down below in the description, and you can follow that link to the retreat description on my webpage. But I wanted to make a video to describe a little bit about what we're doing in the retreat. The retreat is an awakening of freedom. And what that really speaks to is an awakening into the essential nature of our being, the truth of ourselves, the authentic truth of ourselves, which is to say, to wake up from the dream of ourselves or the self that we've created in our own mind. We all know that we have stories about ourselves. We have a sense of ourselves. We have some sense of self-image, of our value, our okayness, our lovability, our sense of place in the world. And most of us, to some degree, struggle with our sense of self, assessing, am I okay? Am I lovable enough? Am I good enough? I mean, those are the classics. Those are the ones that plagued me for the majority of my life. I just turned 60 recently, and I would say up until my late 40s, that was my only sense of myself, was the story of me that I had created in my own mind and was struggling with mightily, doing a lot of personal development work, trying to figure out why I had this nagging anxiety about my own sense of being, my own worthiness, my own lovability. And most of us have some image of ourselves that we are working with, some parts of the way we feel about ourselves that we don't necessarily like. And I want to talk today about what that is. And we work with this in the retreat. This is a significant part of the retreat, is helping people to discover who they really are and get some distance from this story of self they've created and see it for what it is. It is a story. It is a self that we have constructed in our own mind over a lifetime. And I want to put it to you in this way. This has been really resonating with the people that I work with every week. Typically, without even really thinking about it, when we are assessing our sense of self, we're going to the mind. We're asking the mind who we are, how we're doing, if we're okay enough. And we're asking the mind basically for our truth. I want to know the truth of me. And we're asking the wrong tool. The mind, any you that is conjured in the mind, is made up by the mind. And what I mean by that is the mind is not connected, at least the lower mind. There's some aspects of the higher mind, but we're talking about the general way we think. The lower mind is got an image of self, the ego self, that is not based on truth, which means it's not based on consciousness. The mind is not connected to God in that way. The mind is not connected to source. That's more of the heart. The mind is more of a closed system, simply a programmed system. It's like a computer with no internet connection. It's just got its programming. And that programming is usually pretty bad. It's programming we got from our mom, from our dad, from our culture, from our schooling, from media, from our traumas. So when we ask the mind, who am I? The mind is basically going, that ain't my job. But as long as you're asking, because you seem to ask me fairly consistently, I'm going to oblige and I will tell you what I think. And the mind simply says, well, let me check my database. Let's see, who are you? Let me check my database. That's all it's got. That's all it's got. Let me check my database. Let me go to my memories. Let me go to the things I learned about me. Let me go to my conditioning, my programming, my wounding, my traumas, my stories. The things I believed about myself all the way through my life so far, the things I even believed about myself an hour ago. That's all it has access to, is its own database, which it made up in the first place. It's a very liberating thing to start to recognize that the habit of feeling into who we are is typically, that question is directed to the very mind that made you up in the first place. So you're asking the thing that made you up for its version of truth. Really let that sink in for a second. We're asking the wrong tool. That's why in meditative practice, we start to learn how to feel within, typically going to the heart, and starting to recognize the heart not as a container of self, but as a portal to self. Feeling to the heart, which is open to love, which is open to the divine consciousness of being, of love, of grace. We can feel into our own soul's inclinations. We can feel into our own soul tuning. We can feel into the vast love that feeds all of our souls with such pure divine love. We can feel into that. The mind can think about pure divine love. The mind can think about the soul and its desires and its natural inclinations. But anything the mind comes up with is made up by the mind accessing the stuff that it made up previously as its source of truth. The mind doesn't know truth. The mind knows what it has called truth in the past. So let this one sink in a little bit. And imagine being free of that. Imagine being able to hear all your mind's stories, beliefs, the lies it tells about us, all the things it says. Imagine you can't necessarily make it stop saying the things it does, at least not initially. But you can start to learn not to listen to it. And not listening to it is easier when you start to recognize that what it is. Why would you listen to it? It doesn't have any connection to God, any connection to truth, any connection to your pure essence. It's just a programmed system. And you ask it for truth, and all it can do is say, let me check my database. Let me check my lifetime of thoughts and experiences and beliefs and conditioning and programming and wounding. And I'm going to generate an answer. That's what the mind does. It generates an answer. Yeah. I checked my database. Yep, we're definitely unworthy. I checked in with everything I have access to, and yeah, you have every reason to doubt yourself. It's not connected to truth. So, play with this. Down in the comments, I'd love to hear your experience with either being completely trapped in the mind and the recognition of, wow, that's what's been going on my whole life. And share your thoughts about what you either imagine it would feel like, or maybe through your direct experience, what it feels like, or what you imagine it would feel like if you truly were able to get some distance and stop believing all of that and feel into a vastness, feel into a you that is perhaps beyond any sense of you you've ever had before. That's what we play with in this retreat. That's what we work with. That's what we open to. That's the ultimate freedom. The ultimate freedom is to be able to step back, to rest in our truth, and then notice and work with. We still work with our story. We still work with the things the mind says. It's just that we're not arguing with the mind as if it's true. We're simply holding in our grace of being and listening, giving the mind some space to express its fears and its doubts and its uncertainties, so we can love them, so we can hold space for them. It's like a child believing there's monsters in the closet and coming to the parent and saying, I need some help with this, I'm afraid, there's monsters in the closet. In order for the parent to hold loving, soothing space for that child, the parent doesn't have to believe there's monsters in the closet. The parent knows there's not. But they hold that space for the scared child. They hug them, they hold them, they love them. They fill them with love. So the child becomes more, the child's experience is more of love than of fear. When we can rest in the truth of who we actually are as a known embodiment of love, we can stay there and notice all of our old thoughts. No longer arguing with them, no longer believing them, no longer letting them take us down the rabbit hole. We know what we are. We rest in that. And in that, we hold space for loving, compassionate space for our thoughts to play themselves out, to present themselves, not to be argued with or believed, but simply to be witnessed from the healing space of true divine love. I hope you can join us for the retreat. Please, again, check the link down below in the description for the retreat. And I hope you can join us. Blessings. If you like that video, please click that like button down below. As well, subscribe to my channel. That way you'll get notified when I upload new videos. And finally, visit me at my website, chessedwards.com. I've got a link to my website down below in the description. Thank you. I'll see you soon.